Each week, nearly a dozen movies are released theatrically. 40 films a month, more than 400 a year. That's a plethora of cinema. Too much cinema. You'd have to be an addict to see all that. But don't fret. We've got you covered. This is CinemAddicts.
Hey everyone, what's up? It's a new week of CinemAddicts. This is CinemAddicts episode 252. We are covering the week of Friday, August 2nd, 2024. Movies we're covering include War Game, Coup, Kneecap, and Amfad, All My Friends Are Dead. Thankfully, most of my friends are alive, one of them being Eric Holmes. I'm joined by Eric Holmes, of course. How are you, Eric Holmes, this week on CinemAddicts?
I'm wide awake and ready to go. Let's do this.
You're wide awake and ready to go. First of all, this is not we are recording the segment, but this is actually a live apology. I apologize, Eric, because we should have gone earlier. Eric actually messaged me saying that we should go a little bit early. He thought we should go a little bit earlier. I had no idea how tired you were. You had to stay up were you able to stay up that extra hour and a half, or did you sleep when you came home from work? What happened to you?
I was sitting in front of the computer and just doing nerd shit or stuff. It's family
nerd
show.
Stuff. Yeah, okay, nerd stuff. Okay, yeah, good.
And
good.
I just ended up passing out in front of the computer, and then I woke up and was like, "Oh family show." I'm just gonna pass it on to you. Pass out in front of the computer.
You're gonna pass it on to me.
Before we started.
Okay, first off, here's the idea. As you know, the last several weeks, Bruce Purkey is not a regular part of the weekly episode, which I think in a weird way is a cool mixed blessing, because you guys get to listen to Bruce Purkey's methodical, insightful reviews at the tail end of these episodes. And the way he prefaces his thing is like, here, it's Bruce, I'm here in the attic, or I'm all alone, and Eric and Bruce has tied me up in a chair and they've left me all to my lonesome.
That's not fake, by the way. We actually do that. So
we actually do that with our merch, by the way.
Bruce, keep it down.
Now, I don't know if you had time to actually go through our Facebook message thread, Eric Holmes, but whenever Bruce says, I'm in the attic at the beginning of every segment, by the way, his segments for CinemAddicts, as you guys know, hopefully know, is after each of these episodes. Then we just cut right to Bruce, and he talks about him being in an attic. And I just came up with his segment. His segment should be called what, Eric Holmes? Did you read the thread?
I did
any
not.
idea? So Bruce Purkey's segments, I think moving forward, we have to get the clear go-ahead from the boss of that, from this episode, which is Bruce Purkey. I suggested his weekly segments should be called Cinematic.
Yeah. There you go.
Like cinema in the attic. So, right? What do you think about that?
I think I'm going to have to go on to CinemAddictsPodcast.com and create t-shirts for that.
Right?
Just get
Bruce Purkey
get a picture of Bruce cinematic. Tied up in an attic. I'll take a picture of him later on, and then
you do not have time, Eric Holmes. First of all, don't look. Empty false promises is something that I do. You do not do. You're not good at that because you have no time. You have about seemingly 500 jobs every week, and in several days. Okay, so because we're gonna wrap the show very early for you, Eric. I know I'm just talking like out of my what family show, but we're gonna wrap this up for you so you get some sleep. You can go to your job a little bit tonight to do some of your stuff, and then you can get a good rest. But you don't have time to do Bruce Purkey in the attic on CinemAddictsPodcast.com. Check out our merch. You know why, Eric? You know why?
Why is that?
Your job's busy, and several days you're gonna be here in Los Angeles, correct?
Oh yeah, I need to change. Actually, I do need to go. I do need to take a picture of Bruce anyway, because I need to change out his water before I go out to LA.
Okay, Eric Holmes will be one of the many people who are going to be part of the TFV. What is it called? It's just the Film Vault celebration in the Chinese theater. They're having sort of a live show.
Yeah.
On, I forgot what date is it again, Eric?
That's going to be on the 4th on Sunday at the Chinese theater.
All right.
Get to see you, see Anderson. I believe Peter Beta is coming down. He'll be crashing with me at the. He'll be crashing with me at the. Yeah, I got an Airbnb and we got room, so he's gonna be crashing there, and yeah, it's gonna be a party. It's gonna be awesome.
So I'll meet you and Pete for lunch. And I even told Pete, I'm treating you and Pete to lunch. Make sure that it's going to be like at a Mickey D's. That's like a abbreviation for McDonald's. So that's the only way I can treat you guys, because I have some
cool with
dollars off on my app. Okay, I can finagle maybe $4 each. $4 for you, $4 for Pete. You guys can get a little bit of small fry from this small fry.
Speaking of food, I need to change out Bruce's water, and I need to refill his dog food up there too.
Bruce likes dog food. Does he like a little bit of?
He doesn't like it, but it keeps him alive. That's
well. What do you do?
Oh,
okay. Do you deep fry it, flambe it, or what do you do?
I just pour it in a bowl.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that. So Bruce Purkey can't make it because he's actually up in the attic as a cinematic, and he will not be available for this episode. Hopefully, he will be healthy enough to actually record next week's show. He records this week's show as well as cinematic. Tell us what you think of the name. Is it stupid? Do you have any other ideas for Bruce Purkey's segment after this show? So, Eric, before we go to our featured reviews, anything you want to add? I know you're you're a little bit tired because you're working all day and you're going to be working all night. Do you have anything you want to think about? And I'm excited to see you and Peter Beta for lunch on Sunday. That'd be really great for TFV.
Oh yeah, got a couple interviews coming up. I just did one today for a movie called Running on Empty. That one was weird because I had a
got Sidney Lumet. Who else?
Phoenix. Different Running on Empty.
Else? Judd Hirsch? Was Judd Hirsch there? Taxi?
No. River Phoenix didn't show up. I've been waiting for him, and he just did not show up. I can't figure out why.
Rest in peace.
Yeah.
Yes, rest in peace.
No, there's a movie coming out called Running on Empty. We'll be talking about that in probably a couple weeks or so, but interviewed the director for that. And then
documentary kind of thing? Is it a documentary thing?
No, Running on Empty is kind of like I don't want to review it here, but it's like kind of a rom-com, kind of a dark comedy. It's really interesting movie. Can't wait to talk about it. And then
very cool.
Talk to the the director of another documentary called Happy Campers, Amy Nicholson. Did an interview with her, and we'll be talking about that soon as well.
Next week, for next week's episode.
The banger alerts are going off all over the place. So we're neck deep. Family show. We're neck deep in bangers.
Good.
So banger season.
Don't worry. Hey, I apologize for being late for this week, and you're mea culpa. We equal out because you said a couple of swear words. I know how to flag it at the beginning. As long as you are clean as a whistle for the rest of the episode, everything should be effing fine, Eric Holmes. So you don't worry a thing. Anything else you want to say before we get to our features?
No. The only thing is, if you're listening to this before the Film Vault live show and you're going to be in LA, hit me up. Come say hi to me. He should be there. You can hang out with him. If Greg's there, don't talk to him. He doesn't Don't
talk to him because I'm only paying for Peter Beta and Eric Holmes and myself. They get we're going to have a nice meal fit for a king, either Burger King or McDonald's. Peter Beta, you can choose the fast food place of your choice. I'm not going to take you and Eric to a nice place to give you good food. You guys don't deserve it. How's that? Is that okay, Eric Holmes?
You're
okay with that? Yeah. Okay.
That makes sense.
Peter Beta, I love you and Eric. We're going to have a nice lunch. Anderson Cowan, you are not invited to lunch because you're going to be busy with TFV, and don't come to our table, okay? Because you left CinemAddicts about 1.5 years ago, man, and I'm so sad. You broke my heart. Eric Holmes, can you back me up? He's not invited. Anderson Cowan from TFV is not invited to our table.
Anderson's always invited. We don't. You can't even lie about that.
No,
we all love.
I can't even lie. Anderson Cowan, I love you. I'm trying to make a heart on the thing, but I don't know how to make a heart. I'm a sociopath. Can you do the heart with it on the Zoom thing with the thing? I can't do the heart sign. Is that a good heart sign for? Oh, very good.
That looks more like an Xbox controller, but
very good. Well, we love you, Anderson Cowan. Me and Eric and Bruce Purkey, and of course Peter Beta as well. Good luck on TFV, and if I see you over at TCL Chinese Theater on Sunday, please, that'd be great. And if you know what, Henderson, if you're around, stop by at the table because I'll treat you to lunch as well. Make sure, Eric, that Anderson does not listen to this episode because I just said I'm going to treat him to lunch. I don't want to really treat him. Okay, so make sure he does not listen to this CinemAddicts episode, which starts off with, I think, the best movie of this week. Eric Holmes, you did the bit. You buried that lead, or you didn't bury the lead last week. You just gave freaking ratings to movies before we reviewed them. I love how you did that. But I'm going to say right now, our best film of the week, you can disagree, is War Game. Eric Holmes, what say you? Don't bury the lead. Is it the best movie of the week? Off the top of your head?
Hard to say.
Off the dome?
Hard to say.
Hard to say.
War Game is great,
diplomatic.
But so are the other two movies I saw. So we'll see how the numbers play out. But maybe.
Okay.
Okay. But
all right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're in banger season, so we'll see what happens.
Okay. Well, we'll see what happens. Now, War Game it's sort of a documentary, sort of a movie. Here is a plot summary, official plot synopsis. War Game sweeps audiences into an elaborate future set simulation that dramatically escalates the threat posed by the January 6, 2021 insurrection. So what happens is the filmmakers, they set up a simulation where it sort of mirrors the insurrection from January 6th, and you have real life politicians, retired or working military veterans, as well. They play part in this elaborate, quote, war game. Someone plays a president, some real people who've worked for the government play the advisors, and they must confront a political coup that's backed by this group called, I think they're called the Order of Columbus, if I'm not mistaken. So the Order of Columbus is made up. Order of Columbus. They're made up by, some of them are real life military veterans. And what's interesting is these military veterans, they have insights on what some of these insurgents or this insurrection thing, that POV, because they've been in the war, they know what's going on, boots on the ground. So it's interesting. You have sort of this battle, mind game, chess match between the politicians, the officials in this situation room as they're trying to figure out how to quell this insurrection orchestrated by the Order of Columbus. It's directed by Tony Gerber and Jesse Moss. Hits New York August 2nd and more markets August 9th. I think, Eric, did you notice some of the politicians and military advisors? I noticed General Clark there. That was great to see him. But, well, there's some really cool people there, and they look like they know what they're doing.
So here's the thing about it. From my point of view, I didn't know. I couldn't tell if this was a documentary or if this was a movie. Like, made it look like a documentary, because I didn't recognize anyone in it. And like the Order of Columbus, I thought that was a made up insurgents group, like a Proud Boys fanboy, or probably like because the presidents obviously were just made up names. A lot of the names were made up names because they wanted to maintain the nonpartisan aspect of it, because it's not about Republican or Democrat. It's, if this thing happens, this is how we're going to deal with it.
Right. Yeah. Because what happens is the main issue with War Game is, will the president, whoever the president is played by in this War Game, and his group of advisors, will they collectively decide to call upon the Insurrection Act? And I think that's a real big thing. That's one of the big conflicts in War Game, because what will be the repercussions if they do that? What if they give a lot of government powers to the National Guards for each state? Because this insurrection is not just aimed at the Capitol. This War Game actually complicates matters and puts it, this is not too much of a spoiler at all, puts the insurrections at different locations in the United States. So to Eric's point, it feels like a movie. It's really a documentary. It's a documentary about a simulation game between people who know how to run the government or who have helped run the government before, versus insurrectionists played by real life military veterans who know a thing or two about politics and mind games and insurrections and whatnot and serving their country. I thought this was so interesting to watch. Really loved it. Towards the end, it feels like a thriller because you don't know what they're going to do. And I just really loved how things played out. It felt like a real life. No, it didn't feel completely real life, but it was so engaging. And I got to learn a lot about what would happen if January 6th happened again. What would be the ins and outs? How would people in the government act? How would the insurrections act? Could this spread out? Is it a possibility in the future? A lot of questions for me, who's not a political guru, and I just watch friggin' movies. So this was, for me as a layperson, it was highly entertaining, engaging, and insightful. Eric Holmes, your review of War Game.
So yeah, this was I was very confused watching this, not in the plot, but in how did they make this? Because on one hand, it feels like a movie. It doesn't feel like a documentary a lot of the time. Again, with the made up names that they use and made up all the stuff they made up that are stand-ins for real life things.
Right, like cutting to the broadcasters, or they cut to the broadcaster a lot where they talk about the news media. They try to make it real. So.
Yeah, and on top of that, like they're shooting in like the Situation Room, like they're shooting in all these places where I'm like, do they let documentary crews do that? Because that doesn't seem like it just seems like incredible access for a documentary.
Right.
But like if it was a movie, it's like, oh, that's a set. But man, that's an expensive set. So like on one hand, it feels like an independent movie, but the budget would be too high just for, the sets they would have to build. On the other hand, it's like, it's a documentary, but how did they get the access? So like, just like the filmmaking aspect of this and the behind the scenes stuff that I'm imagining in my head, like trying to piece together, how did they make this? This is so good. And then the whole setup of it, of we're going to set up a war game and then play it out and see how that would go about. Seems amazing. It's just incredibly interesting to watch.
Yeah.
And then I start getting confused again. I'm like, if this is a thing they're doing, to basically figure out how they're going to handle an insurrection, why are they showing the public this? This seems like something they would keep private. Like this, now we know. It's like, are we going to make this private? Hell no, because that's just going to give them ideas on how to, find the cracks in the armor and then sneak through. But yeah, this movie is fantastic, incredibly interesting, and beyond. It would be interesting on its own, like just on its own terms of what it is, and then it's even more interesting, knowing what we know about movies. Just watching this, going, how was this made? I don't understand how this was made.
Well, Eric, I think what makes it so interesting. Sorry for interrupting you.
Go for
they
it.
have real people doing not their exact jobs with the government, but sort of a facsimile of what they did for the government, or veterans. Obviously these are men and women who served our country, but the fact that they're actually helping craft this mind game, insurrection, war game thing, it's really cool to see, as opposed to if someone like actors did war game. Did that add an extra layer for you, that these are actual real life people doing this?
It didn't, like, I saw it, whether it was a documentary or an actual narrative. I saw it as this is all people stage as other people just to see how it would play out.
Sure.
But okay, for instance, I got to beef up security here at home because we have Bruce locked up in the attic. There's like no security. Now, if I'm gonna this week I'm going to start beefing up the security so people can't go up and try to rescue Bruce. Now, what I'm not going to do is I'm not going to make a documentary about it and put it out for the public to see, because then they're going to figure out how to get in there and then get Bruce. So like there's just so much about this that, like, I can't believe this movie exists, but I'm glad I watched it because it was incredibly fascinating.
Yeah, this is such a cool film. Look, the confusion that Eric is mentioning regarding War Game is really apt, because sometimes you feel like you're actually watching something real life going on. And it's really not a documentary because they're staging this war game, and it's really not, it's a weird thing, but it's a good thing. So my rating for War Game, 4.5 stars, 4.5 out of 5 stars. Eric, really loved it. High rewatchability factor. The final act is really well done as well. I'm not going to get into spoilers, but it was pretty rousing in my opinion. Eric Holmes, your rating on War Game?
Oh, this is 6.9 all the way.
6.9 stars.
Yeah,
Family Show 5 stars.
If I was
the government has said no, I'm the government now. The government is censoring it. It was 6.9 stars. Family Show 5 stars. I'm kidding. Go ahead, Eric.
I'll give it 50 stars for all the states of America. No,
very good.
If I was part of the Secret Service, I would give this like 0 stars. Do not watch this. There's way too much information in here that we do not need you seeing. But yeah, this movie's great. Like beyond the movie itself, there's just so much that I consider behind the scenes that makes it that much more interesting. And my mind's just firing off everywhere going, how was this made? I don't understand how this was made. It was so good.
There's a military veteran, I forgot his name, and he's part of the insurrection crew. He's the one who helps just stage that insurrection and add information. He talks about his life in the military, why he joined up, and to see him actually play out as the quote unquote the anti-government insurrectionist is so compelling, because you get to see his own feelings about America as well, because he served his country, but he also had conflicting. There's so many cool things.
Are you talking about the guy that they were recording him doing his speech early on? He was like the leader of the Columbus or whatever.
Yeah, he's one of the leaders of the Order of Columbus. Yeah, he was the main guy there. The main guy.
Yeah, we didn't even really harp on that. The characters in this are great too. Like not just the people that are stand-ins for other would-be actors in a real life scenario. That they were all great. The actual people were just cool to follow. Yeah. What's not to like about this?
What exactly? 6.9. 6 point, very rad. 6.9. Look, when Eric said rad, another official in the, I don't want to give too much away. An official says something close to being rad, and then another official says, I don't know if we say that in the Situation Room. It's pretty funny. There's a lot of cool things about War Game. Eric 6.9. I mean, me 4.5 stars. Yes.
Not to show my hand, but rad will come up later on. Didn't mean to kneecap this review, but it'll come up later.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I feel bad. Oh, my knee will be sore in a few moments, and I'll tell you why. Now, it's family show, not that reason, but there's going to be a couple things about Kneecap I want to express. I do not know what Bruce Purkey said about War Game. Neither, I'm assuming, does Eric, because I think moving forward, we don't listen to Bruce's cinematic segment until we're done with this episode. So it keeps us fresh. And I just can't wait to hear what Bruce has to say about War Game. You guys might know first. Who knows? Or maybe before Eric, because I'm editing the show. War Game. Check out what Bruce's review later on for the cinematic segment. Yes, Eric.
My guess is that he's going to dig this one. I can't imagine who would not like this. This documentary is so good.
All right. Again, New York, August 2nd. More markets, August 9th. Now, let's get to Amfad. All My Friends Are Dead. In the horror thriller Amfad, All My Friends Are Dead, a group of college friends rent an Airbnb for the biggest musical festival of the year. A weekend of partying quickly takes a turn as the group is murdered one by one. Not a spoiler, I guess, if it's in the plot synopsis, according to their sin. So it's sort of like a 7 Deadly Sins meets a Coachella festival weekend with these college friends, and one by one, they are killed. Directed by Marcus Dunstan. Eric Holmes interviewed Marcus Dunstan this couple weeks ago. We're going to put it on our CinemAddicts feed this week as well. It stars Jade Pettyjohn and Jojo Siwa. Eric, your thoughts on this horror thriller Amfad, All My Friends Are Dead?
This one was pretty good too. Spoiler alert, I haven't seen a bad movie this week. So okay. I don't think we're talking about Deadpool, so it's great. But anywho, no, actually Deadpool was fine. But anyway, with All My Friends Are Dead, it starts off as kind of like a stoner comedy, and then and this is also one that has, I believe it's got a 20-minute cold open. And there's been a lot of those lately where like you'll watch a movie and like 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour into the movie, like then they'll start doing the titles and it's like, oh, okay, cool, we're doing that. But Yeah, it starts off as like a stoner comedy with a bunch of like internet influencers, similar to us,
And they're all friends.
Except they actually influence people.
Yeah, and they make money. Yeah,
yeah, but
poor
yeah,
like us.
Yeah, like you said, they're going to like a Coachella sort of event, and then their van breaks down, and then so they end up staying at this place. And then when they get there, there's like all these shot glasses lined up. They're like, with the seven deadly sins kind of motif. And then at one point, about halfway through the movie, I thought this would have been a spoiler, but I mean, the movie's called All My Friends Are Dead, so I guess you can figure out that this is where it's going. But it comes so late that at least when I was watching, I was kind of lulled into, oh, this is a stoner comedy, and then about halfway through, I'm like, oh, okay, this is a serial killer movie, or a slasher movie, pretty much. And so the slasher is killing all the influencers based on their seven deadly sins. So it's got kind of a Saw vibe to it, or definitely a seven vibe because of the killer doing the seven deadly sins. But it's got a lot more. It's a lot more jovial and fun than Seven is, because Seven's like dark and serious business. Saw is kind of over the top gross. This one definitely has some gory kills to it, but the gory kills are done in like a fun way. Like when you watch Saw, you kind of like your skin kind of crawls. It's like, kind of look away. This, when the kills happen, is like, oh, fun, because it's like so over the top that it's not. It doesn't get under your skin the way a Saw movie does. But yeah, this is
what I liked about this. Sorry, Eric. I like like you said, the first 20 minutes is sort of, you get to meet the people. It's one of the superficial meet, just sort of a teen comedy sort of.
Yeah, they're all doing drugs, all having sex, right. Like, yeah.
And you've seen that before, and okay, they're waiting for things and then a couple of possible kills or disappearances happen, and it picks up. And then by the third act, we're not going to get into what happens, but I loved how Marcus Dunstan framed the third act, when a lot of these things come together and it just gets really crazy, and some really cool twists and turns towards the end that I thought was just completely bat-ish crazy stuff that goes on. And I thought the third act really brought the movie home for me. I don't know about you, Eric. Were you okay with it? Was it all just good throughout the whole thing?
Yeah, it just kept switching gears, and I was kind of in for all of it. I was talking, I was talking with the director, and I didn't pick this up when I watched it, and I'm gonna have to go back and try this. I don't smoke weed really because I get too paranoid, and it's family show, so of course, weeds outside is just really hot outside. But Marcus was talking about watching this, and there's like certain points where you want to smoke weed because then it'll hit you at certain points. Like it was kind of like how Baby Driver was kind of put together specifically for the music. I think this was put together specifically for when to smoke weed and when not to.
Oh, okay.
And so right. there's like you can watch the movie as it is, and I think it's really enjoyable. But apparently, like if you smoke weed, apparently there's a trick to where you smoke weed at. So it's kind of like sort of like a drinking game, but for marijuana. But I want to try that because this feels like that kind of movie. And actually, just him saying that kind of clues you into what kind of movie you're in for. And if it sounds like something, if that sounds like something you'd be into, this is probably a great version of that.
You're going to hear this on Eric's interview with Marcus Dunstan, but I'll say it right now. He also mentioned, and this is something Eric and I did not do, he said to stay till the end credits. So I don't know if Eric and I still have that link, if that link is still alive, but we did not stay till the end credits. There's supposedly something at the end credits. So if you decide to see Amfad, All My Friends, #Amfad, All My Friends Are Dead in select theaters, on digital, and on demand August 2nd, please stay till the end credits per Marcus Dunstan's suggestions. Final thoughts for you, Eric, and rating.
I think I did go back and watch that, but I can't remember what it was now.
Okay, my bad. My bad.
You know what? I kind of want to go. I'm torn. On one hand, I want to go 3-star banger because this is kind of in that in that kind of wheelhouse.
Sure.
But at the same time, like it's just a good movie. I think I'm gonna go 4.5 on this.
4.5. Yes.
But
wow, Eric Holmes.
if you like stoner comedies and you like kind of over the top sort of slasher movies, this is a pretty good one. And also, it's from the director of
the Collector movies. Unhuman, right? Okay.
Yeah, the Collector. I haven't seen the Collector movies, but I saw Unhuman. I remember liking that. I think I like this one a lot more. That said, I do remember Bruce hating that movie, so I don't know how he's going to feel about this.
We made sure not to give him the screener link for Amfad. All my friends are dead. I left him off.
Well,
I don't have any.
Then you can cut this part out. But either way,
no, I'm not going to cut out. No, I'm not cutting this out. Bruce Purkey. The reason why I didn't give you the link to hashtag Amfad. All my friends are dead is neither me. I'm going to throw Eric in the I'm going to throw Eric under the bus as well. We don't believe in you, Bruce Purkey. Are you listening to us right now? We don't believe that you give these kind of movies a fair shake. How's that, Bruce?
There was a bus in Unhuman.
Right, there was a bus in
and Bruce was under it, so was I. We're like, let me out. No, Bruce, this movie is incredible amount of fun. I can, you know what? I can see some people, because I know some people feel this way about certain characters, especially like their influencer type characters. I could see people watching this and just being completely annoyed by them.
100%.
But they're being set up to not
right.
live.
There's a reason.
Spoiler alert: in a slasher movie, people die. But yeah,
right. If you're annoyed by the first 20 minutes of Amfad, #Amfad, all my friends are dead. There's a reason, because Mark Dunstan is setting you up, and the cast and crew do a pretty good job in this movie. So if you're annoyed, don't worry. I'll allay those fears. I like the editing in this movie. I love the energy, and again, that third act for me really nailed it. Eric Holmes, what is Greg Srisavasdi's rating for Amfad?
4 stars.
4 stars it is. 4 stars for me. 4 stars. 4.5 stars for Eric Holmes. I apologize for that. 4.5 stars for Eric Holmes. 4 stars for me. Bruce, one of these days, please see Amfad. Tell us what you think of this movie as well, because you've already seen Unhuman. Again, directed by Mark Dunstan.
Bruce and for 5 stars. Wow, Bruce gave it 5 stars. Wow. That was more than us. I'm surprised.
I hear noise in your attic.
Keep it down.
Please. Okay. #Amfad. All my friends are dead. Check it out in theaters, on digital, and on demand. August 2nd, 2024. Jay Pettijohn and Jojo Siwa are among the talented crew in the movie. I'm sad. That's why there's a little bit of a space that I probably edited. When I'm going over, I edit. I don't know if you listen to the show, Eric. I make sure I even edit all of our 1 second breaths. It's so bad. Yeah. Listeners, tell us if you ever notice if you notice me, Eric, or Bruce breathing at all in these podcasts, then I haven't done my job, because I try to cut everything down to the bone. Have you ever noticed that I cut down everything to the nub?
I do. Sometimes we'll pause for comedic timing, and that timing goes out the window because Greg Scissorhands is like, nope, clip out of here.
I hit Eric and Bruce at the kneecaps. Unfortunately, the kneecap that was hit this week is mine, because look, I'm not going to be a spoiled brat about it. My fault. I emailed the powers that be for Kneecap. Hey, heard this is a really good movie. Can you send me and Bruce and Eric a link? They didn't send it. Come the weekend's over. Monday, I ask again. And that wonderful publicist, he or she did exactly that. Bruce and Eric got the screening link. Me, who's requested 3 times. Third time I said, look, I didn't get it. Bruce and Eric did get it. I know Bruce likes it. By the way, I did not listen to Cinematic, but I know Bruce said in our messages that he did like Kneecap. So check out his review. But only Bruce and Eric got Kneecap. And I'm very, very sad. There is a long plot summary here that I am too lazy to read. I will read it if you want Eric Holmes to tackle the plot summary. But I will throw it to you if you want to do the plot summary for Kneecap. I'm really sad that I did not get to see this movie. Our wonderful buddy William Lindis also mentioned how much he loves Kneecap. I'm assuming Eric Holmes loves this as well. Yeah. Bruce liked it. Kneecap, do you want to plot?
we got another banger.
Okay. Do you want to go for the plot, or do you want me to read off
the you know what? I don't really know that it's necessary. I guess yeah, you can read the
okay,
thing. I'm kind of curious of what they think this is.
All right, very good, Eric. Quote, when fate brings Belfast schoolteacher JJ into the orbit of self-confessed, quote, low-life scum Noise and Liam Ogg, the needle drops on a hip-hop act like no other. Rapping in their native Irish language, Kneecap fast becomes the unlikely figureheads of a civil rights movement to save their mother tongue. But the trio must first overcome police, paramilitaries, and politicians trying to silence their defiant sound, whilst their anarchic approach to life often makes them their own worst enemies. I do know this indie film also stars Michael Fassbender. That's it. Kneecap. Go for it, Eric.
Actually, that was really good. That kind of nailed it. What the plot summary doesn't get is the energy this movie has. You could power a city with the amount of energy coming out of this movie. It's got kind of like a old school Guy Ritchie sort of feel to it, like the Snatch or Lock, Stock 2 Smoking Barrels. It's like a 2024 version of that. The snappiness,
but not derivative, right? Not derivative of the
but it's got that same, like, remember like watching like Snatch for the first time. It's like, whoa, sure. Or Lock, Stock, and it's like, whoa. You get done watching the movie and you gotta go sit in some air conditioning after a while because you're just sweating your balls off.
Yes.
The pacing of this is just so like upbeat and fantastic. The music in this is great. I love the music in this. It's kind of like a electro rap, I guess. I don't know what, there's so many different genres that people call for the same type of music, but I don't know what this genre is, but I like it a lot. It's really really catchy, really fun to listen to. And yeah, it's got that kind of punk rock spirit to it, mostly because in this setup, like, you have people speaking the Queen's English and they have people speaking Irish, and it's almost like a political statement, because some people just refuse to learn Irish, but they can't quite make them speak English if they don't want to. But they're trying to make that become a thing. It's like a weird political machination that I didn't know existed, and I'm still not 100% sure I understand, but it's brought up. Basically what it is when people speak, what was the line Michael Fassbender said? Every word spoken, what was it? Every word spoken is a bullet towards Irish freedom, or something like that.
Okay. Yeah. No.
Pushing us towards Irish freedom, something like so. Right. Like, basically, being able to speak Irish is really important to them. And then so you have these two guys, and they're like, Michael Fassbender is kind of out of the picture. It's unclear whether he's dead or not. And it was just one of those things. Like, did he kill himself? Was he killed? Was it an accident? Is he in hiding? We don't know. He's kind of at the beginning of the movie, and then he disappears, and then he followed the two rappers, and they kind of take this seriously, and they decide they want to start a rap group, and they're kind of like I hesitate to compare them to Insane Clown Posse because I really don't like Insane Clown Posse, but they're like one of those rap groups. It's like really what's the word? Like they really words provocative. Both their stage presence and their lyrics are really provocative. They talk about doing drugs a lot. Even some shows they'll do drugs on stage, throw drugs out to the crowd. And then the fact that, like, they're speaking mostly in Irish, they kind of blow up because a bunch of people want to go to their shows, and then they come to find out that, like, a bunch of people want to understand their lyrics, so they're learning the Irish language, and then so that's kind of expanding as well.
That's very cool. Yeah, that's very, very cool.
And it goes a bunch of strange places. It's I think Bruce mentioned in our thing that this is an Anderson movie, and if Anderson doesn't like this movie, I will be shocked, absolutely shocked. But this has like kind of Dinner in America. There you go. Like how that's got that kind of
make sure not to give Anderson that movie recommendation for Kneecap. We don't want to help the
I already texted him about it.
How dare you? Don't ever help Anderson.
but either way, it's got that kind of dinner in America feel as far as like the punk rock kind of spirit of this goes. And it's also got a similar look to Riders of Justice. You know, where
these are huge.
Where you got a bunch of like interesting characters just kind of coalescing into this crazy story.
Oh, I'm getting really mad now. This is a really great movie, Eric. It sounds like a really, really.
It is. And
does it? Oh, is your mood on another level after finishing Kneecap? It's that good as far as like, yeah.
Oh yeah, like really Kneecap's like one of those movies where like once it's done, it's like I gotta put this on again. That was just way too much fun. It was so good.
Missed it.
And I hope I'm overselling this because I think the movie can stand up to that kind of scrutiny.
That's the highest compliment you can ever give a movie. You know that, right? You're overselling it.
No, the highest compliment I can give to a movie is the star rating, which is 6.9 stars.
6.9 stars. Family show.
Second one.
Family show.
I feel bad for All My Friends Are Dead because All My Friends Are Dead is so good, and a 4.5 star rating is great.
That's but
great. We did this last time with Unhuman.
Which one?
With Unhuman.
Oh, really?
So that came out.
How could you remember that rating? Okay, yes.
Because I went back and listened, but I can't remember. I'm trying to think of what other movies we reviewed Unhuman, and that came out, but there were 2 other movies that we saw that week that were like
that were
like
something.
No, they were great. They were like dinner in America type movies, like that we just fell over ourselves. So then like Unhuman comes out any other week. That's like my favorite movie of that week. But it came out on this week where 2 other like giants come out. And I feel bad for All My Friends Are Dead because it's doing it on the same week that War Game and Kneecap comes out. And so I just want to say I want to give All My Friends Are Dead like that little extra push because I think that Unhuman may have got lost because it came out at a time that 2 other unexpected bangers did, as is All My Friends Are Dead, another great movie that came out the same time that 2 unexpected bangers came out. All My Friends Are Dead is great. Go watch that and have a lot of fun with that. But also Kneecap and War Game are just all-time classics, like instant classics. This was a great, Greg. This was a fantastic movie.
This is how horrible I feel. This is how horrible I feel right now. Eric Holmes, he's doing great on the show. He's basically comatose because he's been literally working his bleep off the last week. Okay, and plus he's doing interviews for CinemAddicts, doing these 2 jobs and getting ready for the film vault. He literally is dead right now. So for him to actually be excited about these movies, especially Kneecap, wow, that's saying a lot because you're just waking up from your coma and being enlivened by these movies. That says a lot about Kneecap and Amfad and War Game. So very good. Good on you, sir. Good on you.
Good time.
All right. Good times. Good times.
I got to look up real quick what other movies we. But go ahead. I'm gonna look up see what other movies we covered.
Okay, look up. While you're looking it up, Eric, I wonder is the Marcus Dunstan interview that you did. I did listen to it, and I don't remember you fangirling over fangirling or fanboying or fan whatever in Marcus Dunstan saying
Greg? I'm a professional.
Unhuman. Oh yeah, that is unprofessional. But no, very good. What does unprofessional mean, Eric? I'm gonna look that up while you're looking. Okay, so anyways, Unhuman, Eric liked that. That was from a couple years back. But Amfad, check that out. And that's pretty much almost all of our show. War Game. Oh, Coup. Look this up, Eric. Look up that Unhuman episode because I am going to wrap up the show with my review of a movie called Coup. Oh, what is it? Yes, Eric.
Oh no, I said that's perfect timing. Perfect timing.
Oh, perfect timing. Okay,
tell us about Coup.
Coup. Here, quote, isolated on a seaside estate during the 1918 Spanish flu and entitled journalist, played by Billy Magnuson, and his socialite wife, played by Sarah Gadon, take in a mysterious grifter as a private cook. That cook is played by Peter Sarsgaard. Problem is, it's 1918. There's a Spanish flu. The plague is descending upon the island. It's called Egg Island. And who knows, it might affect the rich couple, their kids, and also the private cook that they hired. There's also a couple of maids or housekeepers as well. There's Coup is a class comedy dark comedy as well, because it pits the rich folk who live in the mansion versus the normal folk who are working for these really rich people. What's interesting is Billy Magnuson, who plays that entitled journalist. I don't know how he got the mansion. Maybe the mansion was part of his whole family inheritance, but ultimately he and his wife and the kids, they live a very privileged and entitled life. It's class comedy and comedy of manners. Peter Sarsgaard is really good as the cook. Really loved Billy Magnuson as a journalist who is a little bit of a family show DICK. I think Eric Holmes would remember Billy Magnuson because he's seen Roadhouse a couple of times. You've seen Roadhouse a couple of times. A remake, Eric Holmes. Am I correct on this? With Jake Gyllenhaal from Prime Video. Have you seen Roadhouse,
yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Couple times?
So it's still one of my favorites of the year.
Okay, Billy Magnuson plays the absolute PRICK in the movie. He doesn't really fight really well. He's a blonde-haired guy who's sort of entitled in that movie as well. Do you remember him towards the end?
Yeah,
with a bow. So he was
the guy that was kind of the guy that was getting shaved on the boat, and then he yelled at the guy shaving him for cutting him because it was like, dude, you're on a boat, you idiot. Get the straight razor.
Right.
What the hell are you thinking?
Yes. Yeah, Billy Magnuson. Yeah, he was that character in Roadhouse, and he plays sort of a similar type of guy in Coup. Look, listen to Bruce's review for Cinematic in that Cinematic segment. I really like the idea of this movie. Performances were fine, but Eric was mentioning Kneecap, how it had this sort of overpowering energy, which was infectious, and it made him give it 6.9 stars. He was in a better mood or a different type of mood after watching Kneecap.
We don't need
okay, very, very good. Eric Holmes, love it. Now, with Coup, it just needed that energy that Kneecap had, or Amfad had, or even Wargame had. I just felt like this movie, it just was a slog to watch. I liked what they were going for. Everything was a little bit too on the nose. This Coup was the movie that I told Eric Holmes when he said, hey, I'm getting off work an hour early. Maybe we can start the show, et cetera, et cetera. And I said, actually, do you mind if we started a half hour late? Because I'm actually in the middle of Coup, thinking that it might be value added. Unfortunately, apologies to Eric Holmes for making him wait 90 extra minutes, because maybe this will be value added. Coup for me failed. It's a misfire, doesn't completely work. Like the actors, like the mansion, like the location, like the visuals, but the way it was executed in the visual compositions, the pacing, the editing, again, Coup was one big slog. I will never return to this movie. My rating for Coup, 2 stars. The ending almost saves it because it's some interesting stuff.
That's great.
It's one of those things.
Stars. That's ouch.
That's an ouchie. That's a big ouchie. 2 stars, a generous 2 stars for me for Coup, starring Peter Sarsgaard, Sarah Gadon, and Billy Magnuson. If you want to go against the grain, I'm not saying me and Eric and Bruce are the grain, but I'm just saying if you want to be a contrarian, go see Coup in theaters August 2nd and get back to me and tell me what you think of Coup. 2 stars for me.
A 2-star, Greg giving a 2-star movie, that's got to be bad. At the same time, when 4-star Greg gives a rating that low, I kind of almost have to see it.
We have the
video link. My interest is peaked. I got to see what a non-4-star movie is from Greg.
Well, I don't know. Here's the thing. Maybe you might even want to see it more after listening to Bruce Purkey's review, which you'll probably hear in about several minutes, Eric, after we're done recording the show. Yes, sir.
Just real quick, I looked up and by the way, it wasn't a CinemAddicts episode. It was a Finder Film episode.
Oh, Finder Film. That was a way better show than CinemAddicts.
On 6/9, 2022.
Oh, you get it.
So here's the movies that Unhuman was up against when we reviewed that.
Okay.
It was After Blue, Mad God, and RRR.
Oh my gosh.
That's not fair.
What?
That's not fair. Any other week, Unhuman would be like, yeah, this is a really cool movie. Probably one of the best I've seen. That came out at the worst possible time. At least not, not obviously, I'm sure it made money and, it had its own successes, but like for us, like that was just like a perfect storm. And then here, Marcus comes out with another movie, All My Friends Are Dead, and just hit the perfect storm twice in a row. And now I'm going to throw.
We love you, Marcus Dunstan.
I do.
I'm being unprofessional.
I can't wait for his next movie to come out because you know why? One, it's going to be awesome, and then there's going to be like 5 other movies out that just somehow like it's like, oh yeah, Mark Snudson's new movie, great, 6.9 star movie. Is it your favorite movie of the year? No, because the
new Nolan film is out or something. Or
no film. Like the new Matty Doe, like Matty Doe and Juan Diego will both come out and Mark Snudson come out with the movie, so Matty Doe and Juan Diego can come out with that movie the same. But no, I just want to give him some love because this movie's great. But man, like,
yeah, it's a
how do you come up? Hey, this seems like a good release date. There's no way in hell that RRR, Mad God, and After Blue are going to come out that same day. That's just.
I'm getting wistful, listeners. If you want to, CinemAddicts folk, brethren, if you want to hear Eric Holmes, Bruce Purkey, and little old me at the peak of our powers when we were actually insightful, check out our long dead Find Your Film podcast feed. Find Your Film, it's still available. Number 69.
You know what,
Eric? 6.9 stars. That may be family show, but maybe you subconsciously thought about Find Your Film 69. Did you ever think about that? That's why that's the highest rating you can give.
Yeah, and that's when we reviewed the last Marcus Dunson movie. It was on 6/9/2022.
Wow!
But you know what? I'm gonna wait until we have like a really bad week, like everything sucks. I'm just gonna review All My Friends Are Dead again, and I won't give it 4.5. And like, be like, you know what?
I think can we amend your rating?
All My Friends Are Dead. That's gonna be that. This is the movie to watch this week.
By the way, can we amend your 6.9 stars? We'll go to I will institute the 6.9 stars rating officially for CinemAddicts because I have eschewed that. Whenever you say the movie 6.9 stars, I put it on whatever social media that you gave it 5 stars. Yeah. Maybe we should, like, we're putting Bruce. Is Bruce still thirsty or is he still hungry out there in the attic? Did you check on Bruce?
Matter. He stopped making noise a long time ago. It's fine.
Oh, that's not very good, Eric Holmes.
That probably means he's passed out. That helps me because then the neighbors don't hear him.
Very, very good. Maybe we should change 6.9 stars to 6.9 stars parentheses family show. That's a full rating. 6.9 stars family show.
The thing is, All My Friends Are Dead. I don't think it's the type of movie that we 6.9 star. That All My Friends Are Dead is firmly in 3-star banger territory. I probably should have given it that. But it's like 3-star banger is like the people that fiend for that kind of movie are gonna love it, but the people that won't. And I think All My Friends Are Dead could actually pull some in. So it doesn't really fit the 3-star banger.
Okay,
technically that's a better rating than 4.5, but it kind of goes beyond. And yeah. Watch All My Friends Are Dead, and then
very, very
Kneecap.
Good. Wow.
And
the War Game. War Game.
The cool thing about being alive is that you can watch all 3 of them if you want.
You can watch all 3, and
you can watch every one of them. And you can skip Coup, or you can say, "Wow, Greg gave Coup a really bad score. I need to see what this movie is," and then watch all 4 of them. What the hell?
What the heck? Yeah. What the hell? What the heck? Family show. It doesn't matter. Bike riders, Eric. We're gonna.
We can say hell. It's in the Bible. It's fun.
Okay, we're very, very good. We're gonna skip bike riders. We're gonna wait one more week, Eric, when you come back. But look, next week's gonna be weird because I'm also thinking of Eric will be so tired. We'll figure something out for next week's show. But
actually, that makes sense because next week's gonna be short because I'm gonna be in LA.
You're still gonna be in LA.
Yeah.
When are you leaving it? Oh, you're gonna be in LA on Wednesday, right?
No, I'll be getting home Tuesday night.
Wow.
So I'll be here Wednesday, but I'll have less time to actually watch stuff for that week. So it'll be good to have.
You're good.
It'll be good to talk about Bike Riders then.
Okay, good. And look, we can talk about the Film Vault and
maybe I'll just bring up All My Friends Are Dead again too. Just talk about Bike Riders and All My Friends Are Dead. Talk about
actually, can you do me a favor, Eric? Just leave the food for Bruce for several days with hopefully someone, members of your family will give him water, and he can do all your work for you next week for the reviews.
Man, I'm gonna fill his water bowl and his food bowl up tonight, so it might be gone by the time I leave Saturday. Not my problem. That's his.
Sorry, cinematic Bruce Purkey. But anyways, thank you guys so much for listening to us here on episode 253. It was a banger of a show, excluding Coup, of course, excluding that. I'm sorry, Coup.
You know
I'm
what?
sorry, 2 stars.
In its own way, Coup is kind of like an anti-banger.
Yeah, it's not a haiku. It's not like a Japanese haiku. It's more of like a baiku. Do not see this coup, okay? sorry. Dad joke. I'm not a dad. All right, final thoughts, Eric Holmes.
That was a
haiku,
surgical dad joke.
All right, folks. Hopefully you enjoyed this episode. Look, Eric and I were just talking. But if you want to get to the real meat of the matter, well, actually, he does really need meat right now in the attic. Check out Bruce Purkey and his reviews. He has a movie called Nothing Compares. I think it's called a movie. The Inspection, Twisters, along with some of the features he did this week. So Bruce is really, I mean, I think that's the way to sell Bruce, right? Because he's doing the real reviews, right? You and I just goofing off.
I mean, he's just listening to what we put out and giving out the same reviews for his part, but then he does a couple other on top of that, so that's fine. I don't think he's gonna record much though. It's been kind of quiet. We'll see if he's even still alive. The weird thing is, he's got a computer up there. He could call the authorities if he wants to, but instead he just decides to send you video files so we can put them on the podcast. It's a very strange move, but who can understand Bruce? So for more strange moves and to try to understand Bruce, give him a shot right now. But before you see Bruce or listen to Bruce, here's Claire. Goodbye, everybody. Thank you for joining CinemAddicts. Welcome to another sub show of Cinema Addicts. Cinema in the Attic. Boy, I've got this nailed down. Also, if I am blasting your ears out, you can blame Eric and Greg because they said my levels were too low and I can't hear myself. It's a weird setup here with Zoom where somehow I can't hear my own feedback of my speaking. So if I'm either talking too loud or talking too soft, I blame them. That's as simple as that. And sorry, it is what it is. Anyway, this week, the first week of August, I think officially when this comes out, it's supposed to be, August 2nd. I have 3 features, so it's a good week, good movie week. 3 features, and I've got 2 or 3 very quick recommendations for you guys. I know that there's probably been a lot of movie talk already by the time you get to this, so I will try to keep it snappy. First movie on the docket is War Game, directed by... Oh, is it making noise here? Sorry, guys. Directed by Jesse Moss and Tony Gerber. Basic concept of War Game is it's this kind of a simulation where, I guess, it's called Vet Voice, I guess is the group that does this, which is they're trying to basically come up with the idea of like you get a January 6th type situation, but instead of being the way it was with the insurrectionists and the people who are doing it, you have a similar type of situation, but a good chunk of the military is also behind it. Like they're willing to become part of it. And what this movie is, it's really a, quote, war game. It's different officials and different groups, not officials per se, but these are like people who have been in these various roles or similar roles in government, all sitting in rooms, essentially, doing a simulation where they will play the parts of the president and his staff. And another part is supposed to be the people who are trying to foment the insurrection and trying to, seed the distrust of the government and put a bunch of stuff out into the, social media. And then you've got the last group, which is essentially the kind of the control group. And they're the people that are making sure that they're every so often they're feeding new information to what the other 2 groups. They're feeding news reports, or now all of a sudden there has been a breach of the south entrance of the Capitol, or things like that. These groups are called the white team, the blue cell, and the red cell. So just like any other war game where you have, people picking like, the red side and the blue side and trying to capture a flag or something physically, they're doing this more in a theoretical, political sense. So
it's kind of showing you all the things that might come into play in that situation. And they have a timer. They have a 6-hour timer. And if I'm watching this correctly, this is an actual thing that was being put on to kind of look and get an idea in the future, if this kind of thing happened, what might be some of the issues and some of the pitfalls, and how this sort of event might progress, and how the governing side of things might make some big mistakes, or make it worse, or make it, solve the problem, or whatever the case may be. And the filmmakers are essentially just documenting it. That's the way this is presented. I don't know if that's totally true, but that's kind of the way it is set up. So in a sense, it's not scripted, except for the control team. The control team that's basically already kind of scripted some of the things they might do to throw wrenches into the work for the administration side and for the insurrectionist side. So all that being said, a pretty interesting, I guess, exercise, a pretty interesting socio-political thought experiment is what I would think of this. I would guess that Eric might find this pretty fascinating as well, because it's not a court case per se, but it's got the same kind of ethos as court cases might have, in that it's a real big discussion between people of ideas and ethics and morality, and doing the right thing, doing the wrong thing, who's at fault, all that kind of stuff is in play here. I guess the big thing that makes it not go to a great status for me is that this is one of those things where the experiment is affected by the watcher. And what I mean by that is, and I should have looked it up. I believe there's this theory for quantum mechanics and stuff. Once again, someone more scientific than me can probably correct me on this, where the idea is that literally watching an experiment affects the experiment. And I think this, to some degree, is that. Because in a real situation, obviously, the administration side and the insurrectionist side would not know that they were in a simulation. And the fact that they know they're in a simulation has to, I think, affect the way that they make decisions, especially on the administration side. They might be much more aggressive in real life than they are here, because everyone who's in here not only knows they're in a simulation, they know they're being filmed about the simulation. So are they being more, cautious? Are they being more, I don't know. I feel like it's going to change the way people actually act within these situations. So I don't think we're getting a true reaction from either side. But then again, it's still an interesting approach all the way around, as far as just how these things might play out and how kind of the inner workings kind of operate. I think that's where it's pretty interesting as well. And also how social media can have such a huge impact in these situations as well. Once again, it's a simulation. So how true is it? I don't know. I guess for this one, I'll go 3.5 stars on this. I don't really know how the guys will act on this. I'm thinking Greg will probably go 4 stars. This seems like a 4-star for Greg. Eric might go as high as 5-star or 5-star banger, just because it might really hit that courtroom kind of part of his brain. And the fact that it really shows kind of both sides of the issues. I know he gets really bothered by things that are like strongly one-sided with political stuff. So we'll see. I'm curious to hear how they did. Okay, second movie I saw, Coup, C-O-U-P ! Coup. This is directed by Austin Stark and Joseph Schumann. Now, the basic concept of this movie, by the way, it stars the main stars. You got Billy Magnuson, Sarah Gadon, and Peter Sarsgaard, who plays Floyd Monk. Well, actually, he's not Floyd Monk, and that's the beginning of this movie. So, the beginning of the movie is you see Peter Sarsgaard's character finding this character, Floyd Monk, dead, bullet hole in his head, gun on a table. So you don't know if the guy committed suicide or if he was killed by Monk. You're not sure, because Monk, somehow seem confusing the names already. You see Peter Sarsgaard's character walking up, finding him there. So you don't know, because you walked in right then, you're not sure if Peter Sarsgaard is the killer, or if the guy killed himself, or what the situation is, or if he just, Peter Sarsgaard might have just encountered the situation and someone else might have killed this Floyd Monk character. Either way, Floyd Monk was a chef, basically just a chef. That's it, a cook, in 1918. And as you find out really quickly, this Floyd Monk character was basically like commissioned to go cook for this wealthy family out on this island. And so basically what you get is Skarsgård's character takes on the persona, or pretends to be Floyd Monk. He gets Floyd Monk's ID. He kind of blurs the picture a little bit. He makes himself look as much like Floyd Monk as he can, with mustache and hair and all that. And off he goes to go work for this family. And you're like, what's the deal here? What is this exactly? What is this movie? So here's the situation. When he gets there, obviously he's becoming a cook in this rich family, part of the servant class. You know, they have maids, they have drivers, butler kind of a thing. But the setting is what's important. The setting is 1918, during the Spanish flu. This guy that Billy Magnuson's playing is J.C. Horton. He's this kind of muckraking political columnist who is trying to really, during this pandemic, like we've had that before, right? He's trying to really, tell people like about the horrors that are going on and how it needs to be, everything needs to be locked down, and the dangers out there for the small man. He's kind of like, he's the voice for the little man who's just, in a terrible situation back then. The kick is this rich guy in the house, J.C. Horton, is writing as if he's there, boots on the ground, in the middle of this pandemic, seeing what's going on out there, seeing the terrible situation, but he's not. He's sitting isolated in his very fancy, very rich house with his servants, just trying to make himself look all the better as this kind of elite who's pretending to be the little man, right? So what you get is the Floyd Monk character kind of coming in and stirring the pot and kind of just slowly infiltrating, and that's why it's called a coup, infiltrating himself into the staff, into the household, and slowly trying to upend the dynamic of this servant rich person class. Now, it's weird because this movie is presented kind of like a dark comedy, like a satire. I guess that's the way it's approaching things here. It isn't really especially very funny. I don't think it's super clever. I mean, to me, I saw a lot of the stuff coming. So to me, it really didn't quite work as either a dark comedy or social satire. So I wasn't hugely behind it that much. And I honestly don't know quite who the audience is for this movie. And I'd probably go about 2 or 2.5 stars in this, except for one thing. There's one thing that drives this movie down in the rating, and that is, as I was watching it, it kept bugging me. I was like, what is bothering me about this movie? Why does this movie seem odd to me? And as I started thinking about it, I'm like, this is really super, when you think about it, it becomes super obvious. He was trying to be very subtle, but I think it's kind of not very subtle. It's just basically right-wing, anti-liberal propaganda, disguised as this kind of like, good working class versus bad rich people type of movie. Why do I say that? Well, I started thinking about it. Well, it's 1918 during a pandemic. Okay, that's pretty obvious. You've got a rich super liberal, because that's one of the things they point out is he's very liberal. He's a vegetarian. He's really against any kind of violence, all this kind of stuff. But that he is literally writing fake news about a pandemic that is forcing people to be isolated and to lose their businesses because they have to close down and lock down. And he's an elite liberal who pretends to be about for the working people, but really he's just for his selfish self. That's the kind of the couch of this. And then on top of that, the Peter Sarsgaard character of Floyd Monk is portrayed as this kind of like rough and tumble everyman. And sure, he's pretending to be somebody, and he's kind of creepy, but really he's just portraying all the things that, he's there like trying to, stick it to the man, and he's he's a manly man. He's always pointing out like he can go hunt and eat meat and help supply for the family, whereas, this rich guy sure can't do that. So it's very weird. It's a very weird thing, and that really just rubbed me the wrong way. Plus, at the heart of it, the Peter Sarsgaard character is very creepy and not good. He's a terrible, terrible character as far as a person goes. And I think you're supposed to like him, but I'm not sure, because I think you're definitely supposed to hate the J.C. Horton character. So this movie is just kind of a mess as far as I'm concerned. So it should be about 2.5 stars, which still would not be a recommend. But honestly, I'm going to go down on this movie. I'm going to go like 1 star in this movie because of how I think insincere it is in the way it's trying to present its real story to people. So that's my rating on this. 1 star. I'll give it 1 star because Peter Sarsgaard does a good job. And some of the other actors do as well. And it looks good and it's a good production. But that's about it. And I'd be very curious to hear if either Eric or Greg saw this, if they liked it or didn't like it. I would think Eric might not like it just on the basic that not a very interesting movie, probably not very fun for him. I'm not sure. I'll just leave it at that. Moving on. Okay. I make my rustling papers here. The top movie of the week for me of features is a movie called Kneecap. Now, this one has get a little bit of buzz and a little bit of advertising out there, so you might be seeing this coming to a theater near you. It is independent, but I feel like it's getting a little push behind it because I think probably the promotion department is seeing that there could be a little bit of broad-based appeal to this, at least in an underground independent sort of status. And I would agree. So what do you got with Kneecap? This is taking place in Ireland. I think it's actually supposed to be like 2019 or something. I don't think it really matters. It's modern Ireland. Oh, this is directed by Richard Pepiat, I guess you'd say. And it starts out, and this is one of those movies that has voiceover, but I think in here the voiceover works and it kind of fits with the kind of the vibe of the movie. In that it kind of has the energy, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of comparisons to this. It kind of has that energy of a movie like Trainspotting, but I think this movie acts a little differently, and I think it works really well as well in its own right. It starts out and you just meet these 2 characters, 2 young guys, and they're essentially out in the forest having this rave. Oh, it really starts out and it says, like, with the voiceover, like, hey, when you hear stories about Belfast, all you see is this, and they have all this stock footage of, like, bombings and explosions and just, fights. And, of course, in the Northern Ireland, there's been all this conflict, the Troubles and all that stuff, all this conflict in Belfast. And that's all you ever think of with movies about Belfast. And then they immediately switch to, like, the fact that they are these young guys, they probably are like, what, maybe 20. And they're just out partying, raving in the woods, just, drugs and electronic music and, all the things you'd expect. And immediately as they're doing that, they get busted by the cops. They're running. They're tripping off their brains on ketamine or something. And the one dude, and I'm just saying dudes because their names are really hard to get around. But I'll just say one's like Mochara. The other one's like Moglai Bap. So good luck remembering that. The main thing is Mochara, that guy, he gets caught by the cops. He gets pulled in, and the other guy gets away. The guy that gets pulled in has an interpreter brought in to help the cops question him. Because the thing about Ireland is that the Irish language is especially in Northern Ireland is almost like outlawed. And this is something I don't know, so I'm going to be once again really vague on this because I'm not good on the history, but I guess the idea is that it's seen as occupied territory per se by England to some degree still, or at least at the time for sure. And the use of the Irish language was kind of pushed down. So then using the Irish language is seen as somewhat of a protesting kind of thing to use the Irish language. And in this case, you're probably figuring like at least 2 young guys that are kind of in this underground, like drug culture and, party culture and all this kind of stuff. They're probably seen as hoods per se, and using the Irish language as a way for them to kind of not be understood by the police. They call the police the peelers. And so the police pull in this teacher, he's a music teacher from nearby school, and because he can speak Irish well, and they come in there to interpret stuff. And right out the gate, this teacher sees this book that they've taken from the kid, and he's looking through it. And as he's looking through it, he just notices it's a bunch of like poetry and stuff. You're not sure why, but the teacher kind of subversively steals this little book. And that's kind of your introduction to our main three characters. You got the two kids, Mowgli Bap, the guy that got away. You got Mochara, the one that got caught. And then you've got, I'm not going to say what his name is in the movie because that would give away something. You've got the teacher. And an interesting dynamic starts occurring between them. And that is this teacher, he's older, obviously. He's a respected member of society. His girlfriend, fiance, or whoever she is like really a political activist, but in a very structured, like acceptable way for the Irish language being accepted and brought back and not being allowed to be kept down and wanting it to become back into the forefront. She kind of does these protests and things. This teacher, on the other hand, he's always had a dream of being like a DJ, and he sees in these poetry and the stuff that this young hood kid, Mochara has written. He sees, wow, this could be great hip hop, and for whatever reason, he starts slowly teaming up with these kids, and then a strange alliance occurs, and essentially a band is formed, and that band is Kneecap. Now, all of this would make it sound like, oh, I've seen this before. I've seen this kind of like rags to riches, down and out person makes it up with music. And sure, all that stuff has been kind of a rote sort of a story that we've seen versions of throughout, movies. But what works here, I think, is there's a real energy. And that's why I compared it to something like Trainspotting, because Trainspotting also had this, crazy energy. This movie has a lot of energy too, but it's a little more rough around the edges, even than Trainspotting, I think. Not as dour, though, where Trainspotting was just about the drug lives of these people we were watching. Even though there was funny stuff in there, there was kind of a downward spiral. This kind of embraces, strangely, the, quote, hood mentality they have. It's kind of combining, the drugs aren't necessarily a full detriment for them. It's part of their lives. It's embracing their rough around the edge style. It's embracing the idea that they are going to be hip hop stars in Ireland, which is weird enough. They're going to try to be hip hop stars in Ireland. They're going to try to do it kind of on their own. And they're going to do it mostly in Irish, which is in its own way a kind of FU to the world that they're living in. But even all that would make it sound more serious than it is, because it's also just crazy energy fun. It's just following these characters is infectious. I think it is. And you're just in this weird world. You're in the world where they've got people who are against drugs, who are like a gang of their own. You've got the remnants of the former Troubles and a lot of the people who were literally setting bombs, 10, 15 years earlier. You've got an estranged father who's in hiding, who is one of those kind of bomber type people, played by Michael Fassbender, who kind of comes in and out of their lives. But really, at the heart of it, it's about the two kids and this teacher and the way they unlikely team up and become this group. And the music itself, the hip hop itself, which is not really my thing, is great. And it will be well received, I think, by a lot of people. I think this could be a real sleeper hit, underground sleeper hit for a lot of, especially for indie movie fans. I could see this getting a kind of a lot of buzz and really being a favorite from this year. I liked it quite a bit. I think a lot of you guys out there will probably like this too. And the other thing that's interesting about it, and I did not do the research, so do not hold me to this, but these guys, the quote teacher and the two kids, are a real group. And this group, Kneecap, is a real group. So this my understanding is, I think I could be right. I think this is like a fictional version of their actual rise to, semi-fame. I don't know how famous they are, but in their world, they're pretty famous. So this is kind of a weird biopic. You don't even know it at the time. It doesn't have to be. I thought they were just totally going to be actors pretending to be this group that doesn't exist, but they actually exist. And the finale of the credits is, showing all these versions of them for the last 6 to 7 years, and these actual people doing these actual things. So I think that just gives it a whole other level that's interesting and makes people want to go back. I need to go back and find out more about them. Anyway, all of this is obviously fun and infectious and just a great movie. I really had a really good time with this movie, and I think a lot of the CinemAddicts crowd out there will enjoy this movie. Some won't, but I think a lot will. 4.5 stars for me. Definitely one of my favorite movies this year so far. It will be on my list, which is already 18 movies long, but that's still a good movie. It's a really good movie. Okay, quick. I know I've been a little bit wordy today. I apologize, guys, but some good movies. Okay, 3 movies real quick. I'm just going to go through them. Just so you can know that they were fun to watch and they're good to check out. One of them is Nothing Compares by Catherine Ferguson. This is currently from 2022. It's currently on Paramount Plus or Showtime if you have either of those. If you do have Paramount Plus, you have Showtime mixed into it. But if you just have Showtime, you can also watch it. This is a documentary on Sinead O'Connor. I think this is value added for people who are fans of Sinead O'Connor, or if you have only thought of Sinead O'Connor as this, all you know about her is a bald singer who had one hit in late 80s, early 90s. I think it was late 80s. I forget what year. It was almost 90, I think. Bald woman from, I don't know, England or Ireland. I don't even know. Who had one hit that was written by Prince, and then she ripped up a picture of the Pope, and then that was it, the end of her career. And if that's all you know, definitely this movie will give you a lot more. It really shows how she, to my mind, was hand in hand with groups like Nirvana in really having a very unusual combination of mass success for at least a period of time and also uncompromising rebellion. But not just rebellion for the sake of rebellion, but for real reasons. She had real social integrity behind what she was doing. And when you see the way she approached everything and just how bold she was in the face of a lot of criticism and a lot of pushback, it's quite amazing that she actually even did as well as she did do. But it'll give you a newfound respect for her, not only as an artist, but as a kind of a political activist. And the fact that was her political activism was always more important to her than her stardom. And that is what really informs this movie. It's a fantastic documentary. I would say, I'm a little bit in the bag for this, so realistically, I'd say it's 4-star, but I say this is a real value-added documentary for people. It's a real easy watch, and it's pretty great. Another one I discovered I'd never even heard of, this movie called The Inspection. It's an A24 movie from 2022. I never even heard of this movie. It's on Netflix. I bet you most of you haven't heard of this. Directed by Elegance Bratton. Pretty cool little movie. And this is what indie movies should be. And this is what things that you can just discover sometimes. Really quickly, it stars Jeremy Pope as Ellis French. The story is basically in the early thousands. This takes place in the early thousands. This character of Ellis French, he is kind of almost on the streets. He is a gay man. You can tell his life has been really down and out. He's very estranged from his mother, who's not accepted him as a gay man. And the beginning of the movie is him deciding his life is really not going well. Like I said, he's nearly homeless kind of a person. He's just not doing well. And he's made a decision at the beginning of the movie to go and join the Marines. And you're going to immediately be like, wow, this dude's going to join the Marines. He's a gay man in the early thousands joined the Marines. So the idea is the heart or the peak of Don't Ask, Don't Tell. He is going into it. And what does it look like for a gay man in the Marines during Don't Ask, Don't Tell, who very quickly will get discovered by his fellow recruits that he's most possibly a gay man. Like, how does that play out? And that's the interesting thing. And it's not a real crazy, brash movie. This is a very quiet movie, but real subtle and very, very pointed in how it's watching things and how it's presenting things to us. Another standout, Jeremy Pope's in here, of course, but I do want to call out the gunnery sergeant, or the the drill sergeant, Bokeem Woodbine. And you will, if you don't know Bokeem Woodbine, my brain is not doing very well today. If you don't know Bokeem Woodbine, I can't say the name. You think you don't know him, but you know him. You see his face, you'll be like, oh yeah, that guy's been in a million things. He's fantastic. He's perfect in this. And once again, this movie just plays out in ways that are really interesting and emotional and subtle. And the drama is already set up in there, but this movie still does things that you don't quite expect. And I was quite impressed by this movie. I didn't think a movie like this I didn't even know about. I'm surprised I didn't know about this movie. This seems like a movie that would have got a little more press. It just must not, it's just not probably bold and weird and loud enough to get the attention that other A24 movies get. So it probably just kind of just sunk into obscurity. I will mention that the director, Elegance Bratton, this is based, it looks like, somewhat on his actual life. So there's a reason that some of the drill and the basic training stuff probably seems so authentic, is because that person lived it and was in there. Because there's a bunch of details in here. I don't know if they're true or not, but they sure seem like true details of basic training life. So I would highly advise this. I'd probably go 4 stars again on this. I don't think it quite goes to pure greatness, but for some people this might. I mean, I would think that for some people who definitely, if they've lived even a closeted or had to be somewhat hidden life as a gay person in America, I could see this hitting even harder for people. But I would say even for the average person, it's a pretty good movie. And then the very last movie that I saw, I'm going to mention this super quick. I don't even have the stuff written down for it. We went and saw Twisters, me and my kid. If you need a popcorn movie, if you need just a big budget, dumb summer movie, pretty fun, pretty good movie. It's got that guy, and I'm not going to write down, I didn't write down any names. I didn't write down the names of the director. I didn't write down the names of the actors. I know it's that dude that we just saw in Hitman, who's like the it guy, the smirky Tom Cruise wannabe from the newest Top Gun movie. He's the kind of the star of this movie as the brash cowboy guys that are out hunting tornadoes against our hero, who's a woman who's with the like scientific crowd looking at tornadoes. And of course, will there be a meet cute? Maybe. But even he won me over. Powell, is that his name? I don't know this guy. I don't like him. But he ended up winning me over in this movie. It's dumb. It's a check your brain at the door movie. If you live in an area with tornadoes, it doesn't hold very much truth as far as the way that people react towards impending tornadoes in this movie. But you're not here for that. You're here for big, dumb people dealing with big, dumb tornadoes in various situations. And if that's what you're here for on a summer movie, on a sunny, hot afternoon when you want to get out into the air conditioning and get some popcorn and watch something that'll just kind of put some big action in front of your eyeballs, I think this is a pretty good movie. I had a good time. I say 3-star banger. This is a movie that gives you what it promises to give you. And you go in there, and if that's what you want, you're going to get it. And I think it's pretty satisfying in that regard. So I would say a 3-star banger for Twisters. That's it. That's all I got. I feel like I still talked way too long, but hopefully you've got a couple of interesting recommendations here. I would say if I were to highlight anything out of here, I would say definitely Kneecap. If it's nearby you and you can go check it out, it would be the kind of movie you'd want to give some support to, because this kind of movie will not obviously get a ton of money compared to some of the big budget movies that are going to come out. I would support Kneecap, and I would say go look into The Inspection. I mean, you can find it on Netflix, and I don't think anyone has. So The Inspection is a pretty interesting little movie. All right, guys, talk to you next week.